Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draw odds are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. Remember, when you become a member of GoHunt.com/insider, you're going to get a $50 gift card to Go Hunt Gear Shop. What's in the gear shop? The best gear that you can buy for hunting the West. All in all, if you're hunting out West in 2018, GoHunt.com/insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. Hi, folks. Bruce back here with John O'Brien, Gandpa Ray Outdoors, and do it right the first time. I've done it right the wrong way a number of times with my food plot forays. I live in Colorado. The land that I hunt is in Wisconsin, so you know how often I don't get back there. And my buddies do the best they can with what they got, but they do the best with what they got. And we got the apple trees in, though, John. That's good. Upper and lower, some on the ridge and some down below. So, that's helping. Now we got to figure out the food plots we want to put around the forage. We want to put around the apple trees. But having said all that, do it right the first time because, folks, this is not a cheap business. It's not a cheap sport. Why? Because you have a Dodge, Chevy, Ford, Toyota, Nissan pickup. It's four-wheel drive. That's someplace north of even a used one, a good used one, 20 grand. Then you get your guns and your bows and all the accessories to that. That's another $10,000 if you throw it all in your clothes. And then you got stands because we don't have just one set. We're doing double sets because we're filming. And that's another $5,000 to $10,000. Have I hit $100,000 yet? Nah, but everybody listening to my voice has over $10,000 invested in just whitetail hunting. Forget the other species. So do it right the first time, especially with food plots, because it's going to suck money out of it because you're going to get pissed off because you put it in, something happens, it doesn't grow. You call John up and say, well, I did this isn't this. Well, what about this? Well, I didn't think of that. Okay. So you can be mad at John and go down the street and buy somebody else's seed, but you got to do it right the first time. And it begins with the land management plan, the planning of your property. How are you going to do it? Why are you going to do it? When you're going to do it? And all that comes down to each and every one of you figuring out with an advisor, with a consultant, even if you only do a consultant once. Hey, folks, we got a new sponsor. It's called Buckwild Coffee. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people go to Starbucks every day and drink coffee. Well, why shouldn't Buckwild Coffee offer you light, medium, or dark roast with free shipping? All you have to do is go to whitetailrendezvous.com, go to shop, and order your coffee, and I'll ship it out for free. Hey, thanks so much for visiting Buckwild Coffee, the best brew in the West, the best brew around the campfire, the best brew in the hunting shack, the best brew anywhere. Buckwild Coffee. Get yours today.
With me, I'll come back on this.
Hi, folks. It's the second segment with John O'Brien of Gandpa Ray Outdoors. And John and I are talking about do it right the first time. And what happens to us all, and I'm guilty as anybody, I go, I get all excited, and we get the plan in place, and then we go to work, and we forget something. We forget one component. It could be any number of the components. The first thing that we never want to forget is, of course, do the soil test. But after that, it becomes a slippery slope sometimes. And others of you out there, I mean, you could build a food plot downtown Manhattan without water and without dirt, and it would still grow. Well, there's dirt on the street anyway, so it's got that. So you know what I mean. But most of it, it's a struggle. So why do we need to do it right the first time, John?
Well, when I talk to people that either are brand new and even for those that are very experienced, I ask a list of a lot of questions. The more questions I ask, the better I can give for a recommendation. Problem that we see so often is you get guys that are like, well, my buddy didn't take a soil test and he had a great food plot this year. He might have. He might have a great food plot next year. But if you don't fertilize right, you don't maintain your pH, eventually it could be 2 years, could be 5 years. At some point in time, your soil will be mined, and then you could have a total failure. You have a year with a total failure. You spent money on the rifle, the shells, all these inputs, and then all of a sudden there's no deer on your property because you don't have an effective growing food plot. Best laid plans of mice and men. So we want to plan not just short term. So many people want to just buy that mix that their buddy told you to buy, the celebrity, the hunting show, whatever reason, but it might be a great mix on your buddy's land, but it might be a terrible thing to plant on yours. So every situation is different. Whether you're asking me, hey, help you, and I ask you questions and you answer them to give you some time to think and reflect, or even if you don't get a hold of a guy like me, sit down, put on paper what's your goals, what are you trying to accomplish, how are you going to get there, what's your current strengths, what do you think your weakness is? Let's improve our strengths and let's do way better on these weaknesses. Formulate a plan before hard charging and just get ground cover, get something to grow. Could be good this year, could be a total failure. And again, just like sighting in that rifle. You want to go hunting? Sure. Do you sight in your gun? You better. Same thing. We want to sight in our food plots to not just have average, to reduce our risk to be as effective as we can. That's what I want people to think about.
So again, planning. You're going to get sick and tired of hearing me say it. But by planning, okay, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 in your land management plan for your food plots, that's the stages that you, in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of people I'm going to talk about, you just plan it out and you plan a rotation in your crops, just like a farmer does. He doesn't plant corn 2 years in a row unless he's using a lot of supplemental fertilizers and stuff to replace the nutrients that are sucked out of the soil. So, you have to do the same thing. Plus your deer change. You got to see what happens. If your neighbors change things up, you better know exactly what impact that is going to have on your deer. And the more I get into this, people say, well, gee, it sounds like work. Well, it sort of kind of is to become a student, but the people do it right. It's not work because they get some nice bucks. They get some nice does. They get a healthy deer herd on their property year after year after year. And that's sort of what my goal is on the farm that I hunt. Every year we have good deer. Are we going to have monster bucks? No, we might never have monster bucks. But we're going to have good bucks, mature bucks, 3.5, 4.5-year-old bucks through a process. And it's a learning process. So by doing it right the first time, what about equipment, John? When they go out and go, Brilliant Manufacturing wants X for this new, cultivator. We're not cultivating, or maybe we are. Folks, I'm not a farmer. But anyway, they want X for new connection to your ATV. Forget about tractors. You can do almost everything with an ATV, as we see today. So, John, help me out here. Besides the seed, what the heck else do we need?
Well, the industry and certain companies might not love me to say this, but people tend to rush to buy equipment. They tend to overspend on equipment for their own situation. Let me clarify. If you're going to spend a $10,000 on a fancy no-till planter, maybe one of these, I'm not going to mention any names of any companies out there, but one that can plant your brassicas, plant your clovers, plant your soybeans, and that. You guys got 5 acres of food plots you're planting. Step back. Think about this rationally. You need to have that equipment. What does it cost you? What's your real dollar for spending that money? Okay, let's look at it as long-term investment. let's just say that equipment I'm buying is going to last us 10 years, right? Better not figure 20 or 30, typically 7 to 10 year depreciation. Spend $10,000 on that piece of equipment. Last 10 years, that's $1,000 a year. So you got 5 acres of food plots, that's $200 an acre. Would you be better to have a professional come in and plant it? Or B, do you really need that kind of equipment on 2 acres or 5 acres? And I throw that at people. There's people that maybe somebody like Bruce there, maybe you got so much money that it doesn't matter to you. You just want to have your fancy piece of equipment that you can show off to your cousin Vinny. You can go out there and plant it. Doesn't matter. It's great, right? But I got a plot master. I also got, so for the average guy that's not planting many acres, you could have $100 spring tooth. You could have a lawn roller. You could have a bag seeder and accomplish most of what you ever need to do on your land. Why do I bring that up? So when we look at our food plot pyramid, my best investment is a process. Do you want to invest in equipment? Is that your most efficient use of your budget? Or is it to have that soil amended, to have the soil healthy? Yes. Then what's the next best use of your money? Okay. Let's get, the right mix, plant it at the right time for your own situation. Here's a little story. I know I might be rambling a little bit. One of the biggest mistakes that I've seen out there for crop failure is not the quality of the seed. It's planting depth. Guy I know bought a brand new, XYZ state-of-the-art seeder, and he gets a hold of me. He planted for a bunch of acres. The things aren't growing that well. We know it's not the seed. We know what the germ count is. You get 90% germ count seed that's tested. It's 90%. If you have almost total failure, it's not the seed. The tests don't lie. If you plant seed that's supposed to be 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch deep, and you bury and you put it 1.5 inches deep because you didn't understand how to calibrate your equipment, we got failure. The deer might be on your neighbors. So again, input. I say if you're brand new, let's start with any inexpensive equipment. Learn about how to plant, planting depth, timing of it, all these little basic management tools and areas. Then after maybe 2-3 years, then let's start investing in equipment. Once you get all the other stuff mastered, that's what I want people to do. That's how I want you to think. And again, so many people got a budget. So many people spent way more than they thought that land was going to cost. Maybe you can't afford that fancy piece of equipment. Do you even need that fancy piece of equipment? That's just ask yourself, evaluate. Do you really need it? Maybe, maybe not.
And on YouTube, I love YouTube, and they're going through some changes, but planting a food plot on $100 of equipment, cinder blocks and bed springs or baseball fences, heavy gauge baseball fences, the whirlybirds, and I like how you said it, the lawn compactor, the thing that rolls around, you put water in to close up the soil or compact the soil. But anyway, saying that, you go out and check, because it's an exciting thing. I'll grant you 100%, folks, that you do the work, you sweat, have some laughs, drink a beer, get bit by the mosquitoes, but all of a sudden, come July and end of June, July, there's some green stuff coming up. Like August, the deer have found your green stuff, and now they're mooing it for you. The green stuff and mowing it for you. And then if you've done everything right, it carries through to the hunting season, and you've created something. You have. And that's a great feeling. And talking to a lot of guys and gals, that's one of the best feelings about food plots. I did that, and they never had done that before. And I know people come up to John and say, look at the pictures of my food plot. Look what I did. Look what I did. You accomplished something. And everybody's cheering you on. And so is the deer, because they're happy now. Your thoughts, John?
I look at it as a holistic, long-term experience. There's people now that I've been working with that are pretty passionate about the food plotting. Guess what kind of happens then? You start hearing people say, you know what? I love seeing deer. It isn't about just harvesting that deer, whether it be buck or doe or whatever. It becomes, for some people, they're like me. Sure, I shot a decent buck again this year, but it's not about that. It's like the fruits of our labor. We can see healthy deer. Everybody talks about that big buck. Well, why is that buck healthy? Because 3 years ago, you were doing a lot of things right. 2 years ago, your program when you're doing things right. It isn't an instant thing. You don't just put a plot out in the fall and all of a sudden that buck, maybe it was an average buck, and it becomes a huge buck. And again, when you're sitting there and you're looking at nature and some of these mixes, especially some of the things that we're coming out with now, especially if your wife and your kids are getting more into it and they're seeing certain species, that look more attractive, not just for deer, but also birds. You created bedding and habitat areas, with pollinators, and you can take some outstanding pictures. And instead of just being about that moment where you pull the trigger, it's about the moment that maybe you're out there observing deer, scouting them a month before season, sitting there overlooking all these beautiful things. Another area, maybe you got steep slope, maybe your soil's been eroding, and you're becoming a conservationist. You're being a good land steward. You're laying the foundation for your kids and their kids to have a long term, have a property that is thriving beyond when you and I are gone. That's what I think it's about. It isn't about the now. It's about the now and the later.
So, the guy shared with me, said, Bruce, and before you start any endeavor, do the old Ben Franklin thing. Ben Franklin, you take a piece of yellow paper, white paper, and throw a line down the middle, and you put pros and cons, yes or no, dollars and cents, whatever, however you want to balance it out. And you go, okay, here's all the reasons I should do it right. And here's what's going to happen if I don't do it right. End of the day, staring in my face is your answer. A lot of people look at it, I'm going to do it anyway. Okay. But at least you've done some due diligence and you've figured it out, because, what we do is people who don't hunt don't have a clue what we're talking about here. Because, we talked maybe in 9 hours, we talked less than a minute about shooting deer, killing deer, harvesting deer, eating deer. All the rest is putting into our ground, developing our ground, developing our herd, being a conservationist. And folks, think about this. By next time you have a conversation with somebody that, well, I don't know why you hunt. Well, let me tell you why. Conservation, I'm helping with soil erosion. I'm helping with wind erosion. I'm helping with pollination. I'm helping do all these things. Well, that doesn't sound like hunting. Well, it is. So with that, we're going to wrap up. Do it right the first time. And we got one more segment. Then John's going to get off to his booth at the Madison, Wisconsin Deer and Turkey Expo. John, final thoughts on do it right the first time?
Yeah, and that's my biggest thing. Point I want to hammer home to people. I love your idea. It's actually what I've been doing a few seminars about this year. Write down the pro and the con. Every action has a reaction. Everything in life, soil nutrition has, there's a positive charge and a negative charge. Kind of like, yin and yang. I mean, there's two ways to look at things. There's many potential outcomes. Weigh them out. Be educated about what you do, whatever your decision is. Just understand what may happen. That's the way life is. There's always a lot of unknowns. But my point is, try to reduce the unknowns. Let's try to have more knowns on your property.
And we'll close with, John, how do people get in touch with Grandpa Ray Outdoors?
Call me at 608-235-0628, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Or you can email me at ObrianAg, OBRIONAG @gmail.com.
And with that, we're going to finish up with Grandpa Ray Outdoors presents Expectations. Hey, folks, a special edition of Whitetail Roundup is coming. I've asked 3 companies, Land & Legacy, Rackology, and Grandpa Ray Outdoors, to be part of a series on land management and food plots. So the next few episodes, about 18 of them, in fact, are going to be about either land management or food plots. Why? Because people have been asking me a lot of questions. So I went out and chatted with some guys, and Adam Keith and Matt Dye from Land & Legacy is joining the crew, and at Rackology, we have Jason Obermiller and Eric Fitzgerald. And rounding out the team is Grandpa Ray Outdoors with John O'Brien. Each of them is going to bring a different flavor on what is land management, what are food plots, why you need them, the pros and cons. So listen up to the next series, and I sure hope you like them. If you like them, let me know. If you don't like them, let me know what I can do better. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.